Hi, I am so excited about today's podcast. Today we have Michael Cox, the site lead for RTX here in Huntsville, Alabama. And not only is Michael Cox our largest partner of education with their monetary donation of $4 million, but RTX and Michael have continued to support our students and our school, whether it's through new backpacks every year for our freshman class, internships, and piloting that program the very first year that we had seniors going into industry, as well as being here to mentor, do lunch and learns, and professional development for our staff and faculty. Michael Cox and RTX have truly been one of our best partners in education. So on today's episode, he is going to be talking about why RTX wanted to get involved with our school. In the past episodes, you've met Miss Alicia Ryan, the president of the foundation board, and she has talked to you about why this school was instituted. In the next installment, you met Mr. Joe Newberry, who was our very first partner in education and is the CEO of Redstone Federal Credit Union. So today, it is completely my privilege to be able to have Michael join us. Not only is he an amazing leader in our community, but he has become a very dear friend.
Well, I'm super excited to have you here today talking a little bit about the partnership with RTX and the ASCTE Cyber School here in Huntsville. My name is Clark Dunn, and I'm the founder and CEO of Beyond Rockets.
Hi, and I'm Michael Cox. I'm the Huntsville site executive for RTX here locally, and also the missile defense, what we call customer account manager, customer accounting executive for Missile Defense Agency.
Awesome. And so before we kind of dive into this partnership that RTX has with the school, talk a little bit about your background and kind of your career journey, kind of setting the stage for the listeners of who you are.
Certainly. Well, what I like to say is I'm a 27-year veteran in the United States Air Force, had a lot of various jobs across those 27 years, primarily doing acquisition, program management, engineering development of programs across the board. Had a couple of special duty assignments, which I was really proud of. One, space operations out in Colorado Springs, doing what we call flying satellites. And then a second one as a political military affairs officer for Central Africa, where I went down and worked with State Department, worked with our ambassadors, worked with our different countries to provide humanitarian mission support and training down in Central Africa across the continent. After I retired from the military, or right before I retired from the military, I worked missile defense programs as the PEO for what we called missile warning, missile defense programs, radar systems, supporting primarily Missile Defense Agency. After I retired, I went to work for Northrop Grumman, working their missile defense programs, then moved over to Parsons, services company here in Huntsville, also working their missile defense programs. And then 7 years ago, came to work for Raytheon and now RTX, working missile defense and as the site executive here.
Okay, so as you finished off your career in the military, Huntsville was where you called home pretty much since the retirement, or did you bounce around a little bit in locations before you landed here in Huntsville?
No, I was actually in Boston working programs up there as the PEO for what I said before, your missile warning, missile defense radars. At that time, a lot of new missile defense organizations and programs and companies were moving down here to Huntsville. So I was getting calls about, hey, if you're interested in continuing to work with missile defense, Huntsville is the place to be. Mm-hmm. I had been here previously as the chief of staff for the Ground-Based Defense Program earlier in my career, so I knew Huntsville. Mm-hmm. Thought it was a nice, quiet place to continue to raise my kids. So yeah, we chose Huntsville and moved down here in 2007.
Wow, and yeah, Huntsville in 2007 looked a little different than it does today. It is now becoming a little bit more of a bigger city, and so that quiet, quaint city that you fell in love with maybe has changed a little bit, but there's still those pockets of uniqueness and kind of small town areas within Huntsville. Talk a little bit about the initial introduction into the cyber school and kind of how RTX decided that they wanted to be a part of what was going on here.
Well, certainly we started hearing about the development of the cyber school and the initiative that was going on with the cyber school being established here in Huntsville. We had heard through the governor's office and other locations, other entities about the cyber school. And we were looking for an opportunity. I think RTX and Raytheon at the time, looking for an opportunity to support future growth of Huntsville and especially future growth of our workforce here, as we saw the opportunity to increase our workforce, increase that pipeline of engineering talent. So yeah, we jumped all over being part of the ASCTE.
Yeah, and the school's grown a lot, and I would assume from that initial conversation and you kind of learning about it and RTX learning about what the cyber school was going to be to now what it is today is it's pretty incredible to see. Talk a little bit about kind of how the involvement that RTX has had with the school goes beyond, just, being a supporting partner, but it's also kind of, like you alluded to it a second ago, but increasing and equipping the workforce that is going to be the new workforce here in Huntsville and all across the country.
Yeah, certainly RTX and Raytheon at the time wanted to make an investment to make sure that we supported the success of the school from the very beginning. So we donated $4 million to the school to support the build of the school and the infrastructure itself. That $4 million was divided up, started in 2020 and then divided up every year. We made our last installment of that $4 million in 2023. Since then, we've continued to do what we call sustainment of providing funding and support to the engineering organization here and engineering capabilities here by a $200,000 donation we did in 2024. As we worked through just giving the dollars and the funding to support the school and the infrastructure itself, we also wanted to be engaged and involved in the development of the school and the curriculum and the students. Our employees were jumped at the chance to be to work as mentors, to establish the intern program, and to be involved in the curriculum development so that we, as I said before, we try to, work through pushing forward on developing this pipeline of great students that we could pull into our workforce as we saw the growth here in Huntsville and the growth of our capabilities here.
Yeah, and it's incredible because with the curriculum here at the school, seniors get to have their full year of internships and kind of get to experience the workforce prior to maybe what most people in previous years before the school was here didn't get to experience until maybe college or even finishing up their last year of college and they're about to go into the workforce. So that exposure early on really helps develop kind of that fully rounded individual to go into the workforce and be successful. But RTX also kind of is involved with the students early on too, with some of the opportunities and things that RTX provides to the students as for maybe even freshmen coming in. Talk a little bit about what that sort of the interest in that and kind of how that kind of ingrains RTX and what the cyber school is doing.
So I'll go back first to the intern program that we started to establish, and we worked really closely with Dr. Hodges and others to start the intern program with the 16 seniors that were involved back in 2023. What we wanted to do was establish a process to, one, do something that most companies and most aerospace and defense companies don't normally do, and that's bring in high school students for interns. So we worked on developing that process, figuring out how we can bring them in and give them a meaningful activity to support their engineering development. So we worked on all of that. Our employees, as I said, were great in that they jumped in, they volunteered their time. But then we wanted to also not only deal with the seniors and the interns, but also, help out where we could through mentor programs and other types of activities that we're doing here at ASCTE by bringing in our employees, having them, conduct these workshops, have talks, professional talks, talks on different levels of professionalism, development, career development, things like that we work on and talk about our programs. So we wanted to start that and be able to, one, support ASCTE and the students at all levels, but also to give the opportunity of our employees who are always looking forward to try to get involved and get engaged in the community.
Yeah, and how? I mean, I like you said, the getting high school interns in is something that's fairly a new thing. I mean, it's not something most companies are a part of. A lot of the companies here that partner with ASCTE are a part of that and get to experience that. What would sort of be your words of advice for maybe a company that hasn't become a partner of the school yet, is maybe thinking about it, but kind of wants to see, from your experiences, what that, maybe the value is as far as having these high school interns come in and kind of mold them into the workforce that is needed for them?
Well, one of the things I would say is it can be done. I mean, that was our biggest thing as we started the process. I was told several times, I don't think we can do this. We can't hire people. We can't bring in interns who were under 18, if you will, right? Under the age that they were allowed to even, make decisions on their own. Bringing them in, and then there were some issues related to how we could pay them or not pay them. Typically, we pay our interns, so we really had to go through an entire process of how do we restructure, how do we get the approvals, how do we manage this effort in order to bring these kids in who, and I apologize if kids is a pejorative term, but bring these students in and allow them to experience the same sort of things that we do with our college age interns. That was the first step. The second thing I would say to any corporation or company that's out there that's looking and considering it is these students are incredible. I mean, their thirst for knowledge, to see the enthusiasm that they have, to see the intelligence that they have, to see the goal setting that they do for themselves and how they push themselves to do better in that environment. They have totally impressed us and totally impressed all of our employees who've worked with them. And we've seen, the accolades that have continued to pour out across the country for ASCTE and students.
Yeah, and it's incredible just to the impact that it has for the students is evident. Getting them that exposure early on. And that impact it seems like it's having for RTX from the employee's perspective, maybe it wasn't something that you were envisioning that you would, see that much reward in doing it. Is there any other areas of sort of, the impact that it's making personally on you and personally on RTX with this partnership with ASCTE? Yeah,
absolutely. And so I did talk about in one of my talks in one of my leadership team meetings, and I think at a town hall where I, gave accolades and some awards to some of the folks who were involved in the intern program and setting it up and establishing it. The sort of surprise to me, and maybe it shouldn't have been such a surprise, was the amount of learning that our employees got out of putting together the program, working with the interns, talking to these students. I challenged a couple of our employees to say, this is your job. Go set this up now, aside from your regular engineering job. Go set this up. Go figure out the program. Go figure out a repeatable process that we could go do and bringing in interns every year so that we have something that is meaningful and impactful to the students. And we had at least one of our employees who was very hesitant, who was a little bit nervous about it, and she grew so much through this entire process. And I was so proud of her to say, one, she expanded her horizons in terms of public speaking, being able to, mentor, being able to put together processes that she could do in an engineering environment, but to do that in more of a social and internship and a mentoring environment, she grew tremendously and she felt so good about what she had accomplished. And so what I talked about in our town hall was that, the intern program and working with ASCTE is not only for the benefit of the students and the Sentinels who are there, working with us, but it's a significant benefit to our employees to see them come in, see the processes they go through and the growth that they go through, and to see how we can develop or help develop them as they go through these different stages of learning the engineering process.
Yeah, and it's incredible just to see that full sort of circle moment that, from that initial, hey, there's this school that's coming, to, the involvement that RTX has had with the school. But these interns aren't, getting coffee. These interns aren't, doing, copying paper. They might be, but in reality,
I'm still looking for people to bring me coffee, but yes.
But you're building out this, talk a little bit about kind of what the interns get to experience prior to us then having actually some interns on talking about their experiences.
Yep. So one of the things we wanted to establish, and our folks came in and talked to me about early on, was let's develop a repeatable process, and let's talk to them about what we call the engineering life cycle. Mm-hmm. So the system engineering V that most engineers work through. And that includes, developing an idea. And then how do you take that idea through fruition to get to an end product, if you will. Mm-hmm. As an acquisition program manager, I've lived through all the life cycles of, concept development to requirements development to engineering analysis, test, et cetera, to get to an end product. I tell people it's interesting that most people don't know, when I worked on aircraft programs early on in my career, I was astonished to find out that, going from first concept to first flight of an aircraft, of a new airplane, was 16, 17 years. Mm. So it's a long process, but they go through a very defined and established process to do that. So what we wanted to do was take these interns, take these students through that development process, through that engineering rigor and the system engineering rigor in order to let them understand, here's all the things that need to happen in order to get to this final product and this final capability that we deliver to the warfighter on a daily basis.
Wow. And it's incredible that they're getting, it is like thinking through my experiences growing up and then thinking that these high school students, I couldn't imagine me in high school doing this. Like I would, don't put me anywhere close to this kind of stuff, but they're experiencing such a cool thing with the cyber school here that when they go into college, they're already leaps and bounds ahead of the students that they're with, fellow classmates. But I appreciate you being here. We're actually going to have some of the interns come on that have been with RTX, talking a little bit about their experiences and a little bit more in depth on what exactly they're doing for RTX. But I appreciate you being here.
Yeah, absolutely. And I appreciate the opportunity to talk to you guys about all the things that we're doing here at RTX and continuing to be a partner with ASCTE.
So I'm super excited to actually have an intern that has worked with RTX, talk a little bit about his experiences as an intern from the Alabama School of Cyber Technology and Engineering. Welcome to the podcast. Would you like to introduce yourself and we'll get started?
Yeah. I'm Otto Fisk. I've been I'm one of the incoming sophomores with ASCTE. So this is my third year of high school at ASCTE. I'm a local student, so I have the ability to commute from around here, and that's been really nice.
Yeah.
I've been in Huntsville like 7 years now, so I've gotten pretty used to the area, and RTX is a really big play around here.
Yeah, and so most of the time we're talking with seniors that have kind of gotten their internship year. Talk a little bit about maybe your experiences as an intern with RTX and kind of how that's grown and developed and when you first started.
All right. So RTX was doing a pretty unique thing with their internship. They wanted to take us and they wanted to have us come up with this idea. And we were going to come up with a design idea. And then they were going to take it through all of the phases of actually how that would be implemented into the some project or something, mm-hmm. and how that would be designed and how that would be assessed for safety and stuff. So we've come up with the idea for a prosthetics hardpoint. And mm-hmm. so we went with the mechanical engineering people, and they had us actually do some CAD modeling and assess the different stresses and stuff that would take. And then they had us go through safety and let us go through human factors and stuff. So I think the idea behind it was that we'd get to see less of one specific field like mechanical engineering and more of how that all comes together and how products is actually taken from the very conception of the idea to the actual production of the product in mass.
Yeah, and we talked about the engineering life cycle a lot with Michael on the podcast, talking a little bit about, they're building that curriculum that RTX did to encourage and equip you as a student intern to, understand the whole process and kind of giving a full scope opportunity. How do you think that, maybe being here at the cyber school, being here at ASCTE has, and this experience with RTX will bode for you in your career moving forward?
All right. ASCTE is tough, right? It is a very rigorous curriculum if you're doing the full 4 year. But since I came in as a sophomore, I had to fit all that into 2.5 years. So I think the real benefit that I've taken away from ASCTE itself is just figuring out how to get that work done and how to actually pull through on a project and make something work. And that actually applies really well to RTX with what we're doing in our group project, is that we've got to make a product work, and we've got to make some design or some product to show in 16 weeks. And that's a really small amount of time for that kind of thing, especially when you're taking it through all those different engineering disciplines. It gets to be a lot, but I think we've done pretty well with it.
Yeah. And so as you've seen a little bit of different areas of the engineering life cycle with this internship, is there an area of that life cycle that you seem to be drawn towards more? And is it an area that you thought you were going to be drawn to when you started, or is it something completely different?
At my heart, I have always been a mechanical engineering kind of guy. Ever since I was a little 6-year-old kid, I was drawing up engineering designs and trying my best to make them out of whatever I had on hand. So that's my favorite one out of all of them, just because it's so hands-on and you actually get to design and build stuff.
Awesome. Yeah. And I assume that, having that full understanding of everything kind of allows you to become even better at the mechanical side of things, because you understand, what the next step of the process is and what they're looking for. So you can kind of design the mechanical side of it to equip and be able to fulfill that role that they're looking for. I appreciate you being here. We're actually going to have another intern come on, talk a little bit about her experiences, but thank you so much.
Awesome. Yeah. Thank you.
Well, it was great to just have Otto on, an intern with RTX here from the ASCTE Cyber School. We're excited to have another intern on. Would you like to introduce yourself, and we'll get started?
Yes, my name is Giselle Lozano. I'm originally from Decatur, Alabama, and I'm a third-year senior.
Okay, talk a little bit about, getting introduced to the cyber school and kind of your journey to come here and, do your high school career here.
So I actually heard about the school through a camp that I did, a cyber and technology camp, and I looked into it, and it was something that it was a place that I felt I could grow in. Everybody has different environments that they can grow in, and the one that I was in wasn't for me. And I found that this school was the perfect place for me.
Yeah. So an internship program here at ASCTE is a big part of the curriculum. Talk a little bit about that opportunity to get an internship at RTX and kind of what that journey so far has looked like.
I don't even know where to start. RTX is a really wonderful internship. Getting the internship was really eye-opening. In the internship, every week, we cycle out their different engineering principles. Like Otto previously stated, we did human factors, mechanical, electrical, safety, and that has really been wonderful. We get to talk to everybody, and the community is really nice. We can all be open with each other and express our ideas fully without having the fear of getting judged for them or, things like that, and without being nervous. It's a really open community, open to learning, and it's really nice.
Yeah. And Otto talked a little bit about his favorite area of the engineering life cycle is the mechanical side. Was there an area that you kind of see yourself drawn to more? And was it an area that you thought you were going to enjoy, or was it something that you didn't think was going to be for you, but now has become your favorite thing?
So I'm actually really interested in mechanical engineering as well. Originally, it was not what I expected. It's not something I thought I'd find myself interested in. I originally wanted to become a biomechanical engineer, working in the medical field with engineering principles. But being exposed to all these different engineering fields, I found mechanical was just my place, because I'm not bound to just one thing. I'm able to go everywhere and do everything.
So how do you think that as you're a student here at ASCTE, you're an intern at RTX, how do you think this experience and this full curriculum that you're getting here at the school and your experiences with RTX will bode as you kind of enter into the next phase of going to college and doing all of that?
Well, where I'll start is ASCTE. The courses definitely helped me, making sure that all the courses kind of went together, they clicked. Every teacher made sure that they knew what each other's courses looked like so that we could tie it into each course and actually learn the content instead of just memorizing it. With RTX, being able to apply our engineering skills that we learned from class and also our social skills into the internship workplace has really helped us. We're diving into an actual workforce. We're going into an actual, building and getting the experience, getting the feel. And it's just, really nice. And I believe that will definitely help entering into the real world because I'm getting real experience. I'm getting real feedback. These are people who are actually in the field currently giving me advice and helping me through things that I didn't even know, happened in the workforce.
Yeah, and I think the experiences that you and Otto have had at RTX, the experiences here at the cyber school, I mean, you're going to be leaps and bounds above maybe classmates that you have in college and just your experiences as a whole, because most people don't get to do that. And so I think that is such a unique thing, and it seems like it's going to do so well for y'all's career moving forward. But I appreciate you being here.
Thank you.